14 years in the NBA, and of course won a championship, part of the Warriors going back a year and a half ago. He's Matt Barnes. He joins us in the herd. You got clapped for. You got actually standing ovation from everybody here in the studio. When you watch LeBron last night, and it did the entire team, like, look, they were shooting some air balls in the first half. They did not look sharp, but then he dialed it up and he figured it out, and they played LeBron style. Give me the ball. Right. Everybody space out. Right. He's got his new toy in Reggie Bullock, who's spacing out. Right. They got kind of their new lineups they're figuring out. What was your takeaway from their win against the Rockets?
It's not how you start, it's how you finish. LeBron said he's in with an activation playoff mode or whatever he said. I believe in LeBron. He's someone that's always been able to put a team on his back and do what he does. I think this year will be no different. Very uncharacteristic of him taking 23 shots. That's not normally his MO, but he said, hey, either we're going to do it or I'm going to do it. I think obviously Kuzma, Ingram, some guys played good. And they got a lot of work ahead of him, but it's hard to bet against him when the world is trying to doubt him. I know he's using that as motivation, and he just has to remind people every once in a while who he is and what he's about.
It's interesting. I was one of the people. I was told that they weren't offering up all of their prospects, all their young players. Right. It was more pick a couple, and they didn't want to part with Ingram and Kuzma and Lonzo. That wasn't. They were like, you can pick a couple and we'll talk about it. I think those guys are better than probably the national respect of them is.
No question.
But am I wrong?
No, I was glad the trade didn't go down. I thought the Lakers were giving up too much. Like I said, I don't know who was right, who was actually in the trade or not, but to give up all those pieces plus draft picks, you're never going to get, from a Pelican standpoint, you're never going to get another Anthony Davis. He's a generational type player. But understand you're getting 5 young players with draft picks. How do you not pull that trigger? But like I said, as a Laker fan still, I'm glad that trade didn't go down because they have a very young, talented team. Ingram has always been a proven scorer, but I love Kuzma and what he brings. His energy and his the gene he has as same as Russell Westbrook about not caring. He just goes out there and does it no matter what.
He's a bucket getter.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with The Godfather? Godfather 2.
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember Frank Pantangeli? Joy, do you remember Frank Pantangeli? Okay, so Frank Pantangeli he's in front of the grand jury, and he's gonna out Michael Corleone as a mafia boss, right? As a head of a crime syndicate family. And so he gets up there, and all of a sudden he sees another guy, turns out to be his brother. And they start asking him questions, and it's some Sicilian thing where he completely changes. And he goes from, instead of outing Michael Corleone, he goes, Michael Corleone, no, you guys got it all wrong. You guys got it right. That's what Anthony Davis felt like to me at the All-Star break. They were like, you don't want to play for the Celtics? Like, no, Celtics, no, I'm okay.
Right.
All 29 teams, anybody but the Pelicans I'm out for. Somebody got to him, didn't they?
I don't know if someone got to him or the standpoint that he just realized the negative energy that was around what Rich Paul was doing, what the media turned it into. So I think he was saying what he had to say. Just like LeBron says, I'm sure he loves his teammates, but obviously the situation was trying to get AD, but you have to say AD is there for the rest of the season. LeBron has his teammates for the rest of the season. So you have to say what's supposed to be said. And, I think LeBron will still be able to motivate these guys and get them playing well enough to get in the playoffs. And, if they face the Warriors, we already know what that is. But if they slip into the 7th spot somehow, I think they can challenge people because I really like their team. I love what Lonzo brings when he gets back and he's healthy. And these guys clicking on all cylinders with a leader like LeBron, I think they can shock someone if they get out of that 8th spot.
I do too. I think I don't think the Warriors want to play them, but I think if they get out of the 8th spot, then they could maybe see the Warriors a little bit later on. A dangerous team. Matt Barnes continues to join us. Played for the Clippers, the Warriors, the Lakers, and of course the Kings. Does kind of feel like we know how this ends for the Kings, right? Like it does. It's like if there was anyone else in chase of the Kings in the playoffs, you'd be like, all right, Kings got a shot. Then you see the Lakers, you're like, man. And of course, the Kings fans are forever upset over the officiating. More Game 6 than Game 7. Although I thought Game 5 was pro Kings. Yeah. And then in Game 7, Peja's famous series, Peja Stojakovic shot an air ball at the end of regulation. They lose in overtime. It's like one of these, like, let me guess, James Bond is going to end up beating the bad guy and getting the girl. Like, I know how this movie ends. But Scott Foster was officiating that game last night, And after the game, James Harden laid into him a little bit. Chris Paul's like, hey, what do you want us to do? You played in the league. You were a guy that would get into it sometimes with officials, sometimes with other players. You could be an antagonizer. What's your opinion of Scott Foster?
Terrible. And it's a known thing. I think I heard the stat this morning about the poll I didn't even know about in 2016, but it's a known situation. And, like we touched on in the show previous, it may not be so much on the actual calls. Some here, guys mess up on calls, but it's his arrogance. It's the way he carries himself. It's the way he looks down upon people like he's better. And he acts like these people pay a bunch of money to come see him. It's not about him. A sign of a good ref is to know he's not there. Scott Foster's someone that takes everything personal. You can't talk to him. And it's truly, like I said, the numbers don't lie. The games he refs and the teams that lose. And then, I saw a story this morning about the number of calls he had with Donaghy, back before the Boston-Miami series. So, to me, if he was a part of that, who knows? But he's a known bad ref or carries himself in a hard to manage way, and it's rubbing players the wrong way, and I definitely think the NBA needs to take a look at it.
Are there guys that can maintain control of a series? Look, basketball is hard to officiate.
No question.
Okay, I mean it's really, really hard because you don't want to call every foul,
right,
but you got to call the first foul because otherwise you get the other foul. Like it's a hard deal to officiate. I have a lot of respect, but are there enough other guys that are strong enough willed to make the right call and yet respected enough by the league and respected enough by the players to make those hard calls?
Yeah, I think there's a handful of refs out there that do a great job. Like you hit on, refereeing is a tough situation. 10 of the best athletes in the world, a high-paced game. It's hard to get everything right. So, you're not expecting that. But with those refs that do make the tough calls or missed calls, you have to be able to talk to them, especially superstars. But people, of myself who played a long time and, a veteran and that speak for a team sometimes, you have to at least hear these guys out. And in the heat of the moment, tempers are up, emotions are up. But Scott Foster is someone who's always had a quick trigger on the tee, and the way he carries himself just disgusts me. And these guys are completely right about, what's warranted and the way he conducts himself on the court.
Guys, we can't have Matt on anymore. We can't draw an opinion out of him. This is really difficult. Matt Barnes joining us.
No, I'm going to give it to you.
Okay, so give me your...
They can't find me. You know what I mean? Chris and James Hope might get fined today, but they can't find me. And I speak for a lot of the players when I say this about him.
Look, I have an immense amount of respect for you because you're a guy that continue to find ways to make it in the league.
Right.
So I didn't play in the league, but this is in no way a shot at the none and dones, which is coming again, or the one and dones. I just take it from Steve Kerr. He wrote an article back when he was broadcasting. Hey, look, I've been a player. Now he's a coach. He was a general manager, and he felt like it's bad for the sport to have guys come straight out of high school because they have to learn how to play.
Right.
They have to learn how to grow up, how to handle themselves. And college, it has its flaws, but you do grow up. You do learn to manage whatever budget you get based upon your scholarship check. You do have times in which you have to go to work per se and go to practice. And then, you got to balance your work-life balance. What's your opinion, though, of the rule? If you can come straight out of high school, is that good for the actual sport?
I think it's a catch-22 from the standpoint of it's such a business now. So for every LeBron James and Zion Williams, you're willing to throw away a handful of guys that aren't ready that are going to be drafted. The Corleone Youngs and guys like that who, had a lot of hype and didn't pan out because they weren't ready. There's a huge gap from a 17-year-old to even a 19-year-old, but even a 20-year-old. Your maturity, your understanding of life, your understanding of the game. So I see where you can water down the game, and a lot of these guys get a lot of bad advice. There's 250 kids in every draft and only 60 spots, and some kids are leaving situations and leaving school early, and so you get a lot of bad advice. But like I said, for someone like Zion Williams, it's no coincidence the day after he gets hurt that we're talking about should the age limit be lowered.
But he's gotten better. Like college has helped his game.
There's no question.
He's learned how to play hard. He's gotten himself in better shape.
Right.
He's playing with better players, in which the thing I like most about him is this is how he's going to have to play early on in the NBA, where small ball five, starting power forward, but not a guy you go to every time down the court. I actually think this has really helped him. Every experience doesn't help everybody, but I think in Zion's case, could he have gone to the pros? Yeah, but he's improved his stock and improved his game.
I completely agree, and I'm one who loves to see. I'm not even really watching college basketball as much, but when he plays, it's must-watch TV. Sure. So it's definitely helped him. And like I said, if he doesn't blow a shoe out and get a non-contact injury, we're not even talking about this. No one's telling him if he continues to play the way he plays, well, maybe you shouldn't play in the NCAA tournament because you might get hurt. The fact that he got hurt is the only reason why we're talking about this. But it's just a tough situation. I heard what Chuck said last night on TNT about just going out there and playing. I completely agree with that. But it's such a business now. And the money that these kids are making are changing, their lives, their families' lives, and their friends' lives. So you really have to approach it from a standpoint of what's my best business decision and what is best for me. I'm hoping if there's no structural damage and he gets an opinion not only from a Duke doctor but an outside doctor, if he feels like he can come back and play, come back and play. You get college, 1 year of college, go out there and do what you do, and then you're risking a lot, but you're risking a lot when you work out. You're risking a lot when you play 5-on-5 and pickup. You're risking a lot when you walk out of your house every day. You're risking a lot, but at the end of the day, you have this 1 year of college. If you're healthy enough to play, I'd like to see him play.
I only got 30 seconds, so I'm sorry to shortchange you. Kyrie really didn't like the fact that a private conversation with him and KD in the hallway becomes public. Your private life has become public before. Right. Is it fair the way we're covering Kyrie and KD, considering they are free agents this upcoming offseason?
It's not fair from a standpoint of everything you say or they're seeing you doing is going to get blown. You don't know what these guys are talking about. They could be talking about anything, but I think we live in a world where there's 24-hour news cycles now, so a story has to be made up. No one knows what they really said, but there's been 100 different allegations of what they said. So it's unfortunate, but it's the world we live in, and it's not going to change. So guys are just going to have to get used to it. Maybe start talking like baseball pitchers with your hand, but still they're going to make up
LeBron thing, right?
Right, they're going to make up what you say still. So you just have to understand.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.